Hi, I'm David Miliband, President and CEO of the International Rescue Committee, a global humanitarian charity that works in war-torn countries around the world. I'm delighted to send greetings to the International Parliamentary Network for Education because I know from my previous roles in politics and government just how important it is to have the drive, the passion, the ideas, the idealism of parliamentarians giving their all to give our young people the best chance in life, which is what education is able to do. From my earliest times in politics, I always took hope, refreshment, challenge, engagement from teachers and from pupils who were able to inspire me with vision of how to build a stronger community in the future. I think it's very important to remember the old saying that if you want to secure a country, you need an army, but if you want to build a community and a civilization, you need education. That's why I'm grateful for the work that you're all doing to support education around the world. My particular plea today is not to forget the children, the young people in war-torn countries around the world, in so-called fragile and conflict states. There are more people in humanitarian need than at any time since records began, 240 million on the latest count, which itself is based on a reduced assessment, a reduced coverage. We know that humanitarian need is at an all-time high because conflicts are at an all-time high since 1945, 60 conflicts around the world. Our work at the International Rescue Committee works to ensure that those whose lives are shattered by conflict and disaster are able to survive, recover, and gain control of their futures. And it's a particular tragedy both that at a time of high need, there should be diminishing resources addressed towards the needs that arise from conflict. There's been about a 50% cut in humanitarian aid over the last year, but also that education has continued to be neglected in emergencies. We're determined at the International Rescue Committee to do something about that, not just through our work delivering education, but also to be the solutions makers with partners from government, from politics, from philanthropy, from business, as we seek to address this critical challenge of literally hundreds of millions of children out of school, neglected when it comes to their education. There are three particular ideas that are exciting me at the moment. I just want to mention them to you because I think in the search for solutions, we have to address finance gaps, but also delivery gaps. First of all, over the last couple of weeks, we've had the first payout from our parametric insurance program that has been developed in Kenya. This set in motion a set of premiums that were paid, and then the payout was based on rainfall levels, which we knew were associated or forecast flooding, which would interrupt education. The parametric insurance payout under the so-called CREST scheme has enabled us to continue and deliver education despite the adverse weather conditions. We need to see more of that. I hope you can find details if you go online. The second is that obviously we're living through a technological revolution, an AI revolution, which is going to affect all of humanity. The great danger is that business as usual means that it will exacerbate inequalities among humanity. We're working with an Indian software company called IPNEd to try to ensure that some of the problems with personalized computer-aided learning are overcome. I'm very pleased with the research results that we've shown so far. One of the things that marks out the International Rescue Committee, we have 12,000 staff in conflict zones around the world, but we're also leading the drive for impact evaluation. At least 20% of the impact evaluations in the humanitarian sector are done by the IRC. And the assessments so far of the work we've been doing with IPNEd, with the computer-aided learning, have been very encouraging indeed. And then finally, I want to mention the extensive work that we've done in the Middle East to ensure not just that there are solutions made for early education for kids who've been caught up in conflict. We worked with Sesame Workshop on the $100 million MacArthur Award now nearly a decade ago. 2017 it was won, 2018 it started, ran into the pandemic, but over the 6 years the direct services to carers and to kids, over 3 million of them, the indirect services through the TV program, which reached nearly 30 million children. The research results show extraordinary impact from early intervention. And I'm very, very pleased that governments in Iraq, governments in Lebanon, governments in Jordan are taking up the lessons and scaling the benefits of the breakthroughs that we developed in the Alan Simsim program. All to say that there's huge danger around the world, but also enormous resources. I always say that there are more resources to do more good than at any time in human history, and shame on us if we don't use them well. Investment in the next generation couldn't be more important, and I'm inspired by the last conversation I had when I visited Sudan in September last year. It's the world's largest humanitarian crisis, 30 million people in humanitarian need. And when I talked to a woman, a middle-aged woman in one of the health centers that we're running, she didn't want to talk to me about the healthcare after she told me about the murder of her husband, the loss of her husband in the conflict. When I asked her what she wanted, what she wanted for herself and her family, her eyes welled up and she talked about the determination, the absolute determination to live to ensure that her kids got to university. She then really took me aback by saying one of her children was already in university, in the University of Juba in South Sudan. These are realizable dreams, not utopian dreams, and I think it's our job to help make them happen. Thanks very much indeed.